So let's talk about parenting, parents, fathers, and fathering especially. Let's talk about that in this video. Some of you know that I made my first video where I shared some thoughts about ethnicity and race in America. And then I made a follow-up video where I shared some of my experience and my story in terms of how I got connected with working with different people in the neighborhood and so on and so forth, different parts of town, and just enjoying the opportunity to meet people and play basketball, hear their story. And it's been a great opportunity, just opened my eyes. One thing I would encourage you in your life, one thing I encourage you for life is always learn to see how you can reach beyond your current state of affairs. So if you live in this part of town and you have an opportunity to talk to someone who might not even be your neighbor, or if you meet someone on the plane, feel free to strike up conversations when the opportunity presents itself and learn about people, hear their story, and encourage them where you can. That's another video. But let's talk about fathers. I made my video and I did more research. I talked to a lot of people. I spoke to people who grew up in Tennessee, who've lived in Virginia, who live in Chicago. And I was just trying to understand more and more of their story, of their upbringing, and what they see as some of the challenges facing African American communities, for example. Now, a lot of these people I spoke to are African Americans or Black Americans. So here's what I find very interesting. We all are aware of one of the challenges facing the Black families in America. We understand that there is the issue of about 70% single-parent households. And one thing that sparked this interest in this topic was many years ago, I was actually, I think, preaching on at a Father's Day event or something like that, and I looked up the statistics. So on Father's Day, we tell people Happy Father's Day, Happy Father's Day. But did you know that as of a few years ago, there were about 8 million single-parent households where the father was not there? About 8 million. I think it's 8 million versus 4 million where the mother is not there, or less than that. These are just estimates from a few years ago. The statistic that shows within the African American community that 70% are single-parent households. We can get into the details of some of the whys. I could tell you this right away, knowing the criminal justice system. So I mentored a man who had gone through the criminal justice system, who finally had changed, but he had gone through the system many times over. He had spent probably 40 years of his life in the criminal justice system. He started getting into trouble when he was probably about 13, 14, and then he was in trouble for years and years. And one time when I was teaching downtown in Duluth, Minnesota, he came and I was teaching at a Bible program, and I got to share with him, and he had listened to other people share, other people who were teaching also at this Bible school of ministry, and his life changed, and this man wanted to follow Jesus, and he wanted to share the love of Jesus with other people. This man, by the way, now about 4 years out, he's been walking with the Lord. We thank God for his life. But as I mentored this man, I got to attend a few of the court cases, as I said, just hearing about, there are times where he had to take care of things of the past still, and so I got to attend that with him. So one of the things I want to bring up from this is, because of some of the things that he had done in the past, even though he had changed, that led to a situation where when someone is labeled a felon, for example, that they can't get certain jobs. And so then it's the question of what are you going to do with your time and with your life and so on and so forth. And for this guy, he wanted to do right, and he was doing what he needed to do, but he couldn't get a job for different seasons of life. Very difficult. The reason why I bring this up is I was talking to somebody who was trying to explain to me, Amos, here are some of the challenges that we're faced with. Some people might do something. Sometimes they might not even do certain things, okay? So certain crimes. They might not have committed the crime, but somehow they get into a plea deal, they get into a situation, and now they are labeled felons. And they can't get certain jobs. And that just leads to unemployment, and that leads to just challenges and so on and so forth. So you can see that there's a sort of a cycle there, and that's difficult to deal with. Again, our criminal justice system needs reform, and there is reform going on, and we thank God for that, and there's more reform that will happen. But when certain people cannot get jobs or cannot get housing, I see how that can lead to a certain problem. And so I just want to say that I see that. I understand that. And I've attended a few cases, again, court cases to encourage certain people who have come out of a lifestyle of challenges and things that they had done, crimes they had done, and they were trying to clean things up. And so I say all of that to explain that, of course, this is not the narrative for every single parent household, but I'm saying this could be part of the challenge in poorer neighborhoods in America, where certain people who are actually wanting to do the right thing. Let's assume that somebody actually did something wrong, but now they want to do the right thing, but their record of what they've done is affecting what kind of jobs they can get now, or if they can even get jobs in certain places. Let me say this though, there are some organizations and some companies that hire people and give them a second chance. So people should not give up just because this company won't take them or that company. Because my friend did end up getting an opportunity to work in different capacities through the years and is doing well now. We thank God. So I just want us to understand that. Sorry I took some time to explain this background, but I'm explaining it because there are some of my friends who have no idea about this criminal justice system and about the whole challenge of getting jobs after certain, if you've done certain things wrong, you go to jail, you come out, and now you can't get a job in certain sectors. That is just something that we should be aware of. Okay, so we understand that. We should encourage people to go and get jobs and work. That's very important. But I'm just explaining the challenges that some people face. So what does this all have to do now with some of my proposal or my solution? I think that when you look at the fact of the importance of a father, and you look at the situation that is affecting a lot of families, not just Black Americans, but especially Black Americans, then you see the need for bringing encouragement and support and mentoring to young men, especially who have come out of prison or who have come out of jail, but who have turned their lives around and need someone to just come alongside them and mentor them and encourage them. We need to be mindful of that. But I know some people might be concerned about, well, I don't know this person, this, that, and the other. Well, there are steps that you can take. So if you have an interest in mentoring a young man or young woman whose life has turned around for good and they want to be mentored. If you want to mentor such a person, please reach out. I'll give you some advice on just things I've learned through the years. But let us not forget about a whole group of people who have turned around because we just don't know how to relate, for example. No, there are ways you can have conversations and encourage them and mentor them. We need to be mentors to people who want to do right today. So that's something I want to encourage us with. Sorry, that was a long introduction. So now let's bring it back. So we need fathers in the home. When the statistics from all different places, and not just the statistic, now let's look at some of the qualitative dimensions. The role of a father, to be there to affirm and to support their children and to support the mother in the process also. And there's just so much that the father does. And of course there's so much the mother does, but I'm just trying to make a point here that the role of the father is critical. And so when you have a high level of fatherlessness, it will affect any demographic. Now, there are children who grow up without a father and do fine. I get it. But as a general rule, as a general word of encouragement, we need to remember that children need their fathers. Just like they need their mothers, they need their fathers. And so I want to leave us with some thoughts. Some people watching this are fathers and they're with their children. And I want to encourage you with a few things. And then I want to wrap back up again with just encouraging us to be mentors and to be a support system for people who might be trying to do right now and don't have mentors to guide them through the process. Fathers should strive to affirm their children, to support their children, to tell their children, good work in the progress you're doing. Now, if a child is doing something that goes against what a moral code of a father, the father can still express that they love the child, but it doesn't mean they support the child in all the child is doing. I know teenagers that got into drugs or just different things that were destroying their lives, and I don't know if it's a wise, well actually no, I know it's not wise, but I'm just saying, I don't think it's a wise thing for the father to look at the child and just say, well done my son, keep it up with all the drugs. No, that would not be wise. But the father has told the child and can tell the child, I love you and I care for you, but these drugs, you know what I mean. We don't need these drugs in your life, my son. You need to get out of this. So the father can tell him that. And the reason why he tells him that is because he loves him. Love is not just where you're telling people, I support everything you do. Go do whatever you want to do. Love sometimes Oh, actually, love especially involves correcting in, care, with care, where you show someone, no, don't go that route. Don't be careful going there. So fathers need to be available to speak to their children. They need to be available to hear their children's needs and their children's struggles. One of the best things that can happen is where a father can have a relationship with their child, boy or girl, where they can encourage that child, in listen to that child's concerns and encourage that child. So fathers need to affirm their children. Fathers need to encourage their children. Fathers need to discipline their children in love. Fathers needs to make sure that they're accessible. The children can talk to them. Children, by the way, when they're not affirmed at home, will sometimes go somewhere else and look for that affirmation. That leads to another series of trouble. When the child, a series of troubles where the child is finding affirmation in the wrong place. Fathers need to remind their sons that, I love you, my son, and I love you, my daughter, and remind them of those things and be there for their children. It's critical that fathers do this, and America needs that more than ever before. We need fathers to be there for the children. So, we've talked about just some of the roles that the father can play. We've talked about what a lack of fathering can cause. We've talked about some of the reasons why some fathers are missing, and that again has to do with some of situations where some of the fathers might have ended up in the prison system or in the jail system, and that has led to a cycle which is sometimes difficult to break, but is possible to break. We need to encourage and mentor and do all that we can. Fatherlessness will affect any demographic if it becomes rampant. So we need to pray and we need to work towards not having that happen, which leads me to my last and major point. When you're thinking of long-term growth, you have to plan accordingly from the beginning. So we need to look at the vision. What is the vision? The vision is we want more households with fathers. So then we go back to the Bible as our playbook, and we try, well, not playbook, but I mean, you know what I mean, like a manual. You go back to the Bible like your manual, and you say, we want to encourage our young men. They're still 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. But we teach them to respect women, to respect the girls. We teach them certain things they need to know. And as these young men are growing up, we're teaching them and encouraging them about the importance of fathering and being good fathers. And as the years go on, we're investing in the future today. That is something we need to do. We need to invest in the future today. We need to invest in young men and prepare them to be fathers of integrity and fathers of diligence and fathers who pursue excellence in raising up their children. And of course, one of those things goes back to telling them the order of things. I encourage my son, or for example, this is a scenario, my son, I want to encourage you. This is what God's word has taught us about raising a family. You meet a young lady, you get married, and then you have children. There is an order to the series, and I want to encourage us to think about that. Long term, that needs to be the norm. That needs to be what we strive for. Now, I understand that society might not agree with all of that, but even sociology research papers have talked about some of these things. General articles from different branches of academia have talked about some of these things, where it is when you follow the order, that particular order of child growing up with a father and a mother. That is very important. Father and a mother who are married to one another. That brings some security to that child. Growing up with some certainty. Our children are going to have uncertainties, no doubt. But there are areas where we can have certainty. And that partly comes from having a well-grounded home. Now, this video is not to say anything as far as someone might say, you don't know my story, this, that, and the other. No, see, I'm talking about long-term and helping encourage the next generation. But let me speak now to those, to someone who might be watching, who might be a single mother. And I understand it, and it's not easy. And so please, I want you to know that where there's no father, whether the father has left or whatever the situation might have been, my hope and prayer is that we can find, and you can find someone that can encourage your child. It's for the boys especially, a male figure to encourage your child. So, again, it's difficult. I'm sorry, I say partly I'm sorry for the situation that you're faced with, which could be very difficult. And I use the word sorry in the sense that I empathize. It's difficult, no doubt. Single parenting is very difficult. I know that from just relatives and seeing it play out in many settings, and from some of the men I've mentored and the boys I've mentored. So I'm saying this as an encouragement. We need to do what we can to turn the page, to raise up the next generation of fathers in a time where those statistics are not looking very good. So anyways, that's a lot to think about. I just wanted to share about my heart on this matter. I want to see every child flourish, and I want to just encourage us to mentor young men, to challenge young men, to be there for them. And the ones who don't have fathers, we need to be there and step up and encourage them. And the church needs to show love in practical ways in being there for men and boys who don't have a father. So I hope that all makes sense. I will probably do a follow-up to this with any questions, thoughts, comments people have. But I hope this makes sense, that I understand the fatherlessness issue that might be going on, and I want to just provide a recommendation as we look at how to prepare the next generation and how to encourage people today. Thank you for your time, and have a blessed evening.